Right, hello, welcome back to another video. So, I've got a Matbro TR250 in the workshop this week, and what it's in for is the centre pivots. They're absolutely knackered, basically. So I don't think there's any bushing at all left in either joint, because when you're driving it, the prop shaft is catching on the bottom pin. You can see where it's scuffed it and marked it all. There's that much slop in it all. And it looks like someone's had a go at it before, because that top pin is welded in, and it looks like it's had a fair battering to get it back through again. Looks like someone's welded a shim or something in there, which has broken its way out. Bottom one, there was all sorts of bits of bush that was broken out and was coming out of it before I washed it off. And that also looks like it's had a shim of some kind welded in. And there's also these to sort out, but they should be easy. I'll just chop them off and weld some new ones on. So yeah, she's not in a very good state. You can see just how lopsided that one is now. So you know, you get them jobs that you wish you just never started. Well, this is one of them jobs, and I haven't even started it yet. So to sort this out, obviously I'm going to have to split the front from the back end, and I'm probably going to have to do some line boring. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how bad it is until I get it in bits, but it looks pretty bad. So it doesn't look too difficult to split. It's just obviously these steering rams to take off on either side, prop shaft to take off, some big pipes there, which I might struggle with because I don't know if I'll have a spanner big enough. A couple of pipes and a few wires, and I think that's it. So I think what I'll do first is I'll lift the boom up a bit. I'll take this front panel out, and I can get underneath and see what wires and pipes there are. And that's made that easy. So yeah, I'll take that off. So under this front panel, there's a pipe for the front brakes. There's a few wires for the spool block. There's some big pipes there. They might be easier to take off there than rather at the other end. That's about it. I think there isn't a right lot to them. The good thing about these is the spool block is in the front. On some of them the spool block is in the back, and then all the pipes come to the front. So if that was the case, I'd have had all them pipes to take off, but yeah, luckily the spool block is in the front. So I'm not quite sure where I'm going to need the boom, so what I might do is take the tines off so I don't have to have the boom on the floor, and then I'm not tripping up over the tines, because if I have to line bar the middle out, I can't get the line bar in from the top because of this bit, so I might have to tip all this lot forward, and if the tines are on the floor I won't be able to do that. So yeah, I might take them off. Yeah, make it easier if I do need to do that. Right, so I've got the wiring loom unplugged, and the wires for the lights, I've got them unplugged. So there's brake pipe still to do, and then decide whether to set these off at this end or the other end. Probably this end, because it'll be easier to get to. It's just I'm going to end up with oil everywhere when I'm threading them back through. So I've just got this pipe to undo as well. But why is it that the union always comes undone before the actual pipe? So I've got that undone, but it's undoing the union out of the block rather than out of there. Sod's law, always happens. Right, so I've got one pipe undone off the spool block, one of them big pipes. Second one, I managed to find a spanner that fits. Sod's law, again, it's starting to undo the union rather than the pipe. So what I've done is I've plasmed out this little spanner. So that little spanner fits on there. So So I need somewhere now stopping that turning so I can undo that one. Right, so I welded a bit on the end of my little spanner, so that'll catch against the side. So now I can put my spanner on there, and hopefully that'll be strong enough to hold that, and hopefully that'll come undone. Right, so the last thing, well, nearly the last thing, is these rams still to take off. But the prop shaft, I'm hoping if I just undo them bolts there, whether it'll move out the way enough to get this pin out, or if not, I'll have to reach in there and undo them caps as well. So I've got the prop shaft unbolted, and that does move over far enough for me to be able to get that pin out, so that's alright. So last job is just to remove these pins, and then I'll have to get some axle stands and trolley jacks organised, ready to split it in half. These pipes, I'll have to thread them out from the front, which will be a bit awkward, but it was easier undoing them at that end than it was at that end. Right, so that's about everything now. So steering rams are, I've got the pins out. Everything else is done. So I'll have to axle stand this part up. I think it'll be heavier at the back because there's a big counterweight at the back, plus the engine's in there. So I'll have to make sure that's well fastened up so the whole thing doesn't tip over. The front, it'll be heavier at this side because there isn't much at the front side of the wheel. So I'll have to put a jack under there, or trolley jack, whatever, to roll the front forward with. I'll have to chock all the wheels up and everything. And then I just want it far enough apart so I can get in between it and work happily without being tight for room, tight for space. So it's probably a two-person operation, splitting it as well, but I'm here by myself, so let's see how we get on. I can get the pins out anyway. I'll have to gouge the weld off that pin, so that pin's been welded in. Don't think it's welded at the other side. Maybe I'll have to have a look. So yeah, someone's done a right bodge job of it before, which always makes the job more difficult. So I've got some axle stands under the back. What I could do with really for jobs like this is a proper splitting rail, but I haven't got one. I haven't got time to order one, because if I order one it will take 3 or 4 days to come, and the customer wants his back. I haven't got the time or the steel to make one. What I've got is this big, it's a tank jack, I think, 40-ton tank jack. Well, I'm thinking if I just put some wheels on the bottom of that, so, some heavy-duty wheels, and then that'll be plenty big enough, You can see that under the middle. Jack it up to the height I need it, and then support the back and then roll the front forward. Right, so to put some wheels on the bottom of that jack, I've got a bit of 15mm plate. I'm just throwing this together as quick as I can so I can get on with the job. If I had the time, I'd make a proper setup, but yeah, I'm just making it up. So a bit of 15mm plate. I'm gonna weld them axles on the bottom of there, and I've made these little wheels. These are just like the offcuts of the inner circles off the plasma cutter. That's why they've got the notch taken out of them. And I've bored them through and reamed them out to 30mm, so they'll fit onto them axles. And then these washers, there'll be one either side. One to stop the wheel rubbing up again the plate, and then one on the other side. And then there'll be like a split pin through to hold the wheels on. And then the jack will sit on there, on the other side, and then I'll weld some bits of plate on so the jack can't come out of it. Right, so that should do that job. I've just welded a bit across either end, stop the jack sliding off. And it's better than a trolley jack, because I wouldn't be able to get a trolley jack in very well, going in the right direction. So yeah, that should do that job. Right, so I've got the jack in the middle, I've got the middle jacked up, and I've got the jack backed up, and this middle pin is loose now. Look how much slack there is in that. And then a big lump of bush or whatever that is dropped out. So I'll have to put some under, even though the weight's going over backwards, I think I'll put some under here just in case this side does want to fall down. And then I'll have to try and get the top pin out. Actually, chop that weld off, see if that one will come out. Before I do anything with that weld, it's probably a good idea to try and undo that nut first at the bottom, then the pin can't turn. So I think it's a 46mm nut, so I'll try and get that undone first. So this top pin, I've got cut through the weld that was holding it in, and I've jiggled it about with the jacks, and you can see that this bit is loose in this bit, so the pin is not actually touching anything, but it's still stuck, and it looks like it's been battered in before. It looks like it's been braided in with a hammer. So whether it's tight in here and the bottom, so what I might do is put a jack in there and see if the pin will press out. I just want to see if it'll move a little bit. If I can get it to move, then I'll finish putting, well, I've got another jack under the middle, but I'll maybe chock the axles. I'll chock the wheels, obviously. Make sure everything is absolutely bang on safe before I completely take the pin out. But at the moment, I just want to see if I can get it to move. Right, so I'm having a bit of a struggle getting this middle pin out. I've got a bottle jack in there. I'm trying to jack the pin out, and it won't come any further than that. So whatever's in here, I think it's stuck in, you know, the outer bit. Oh, I don't know. It's moving up and down in there so much, and then it's getting to there, and then it's not moving anymore. So whether I take that bottle jack out and put a bigger one in, over 50-ton bottle jack, but I'll struggle to get it in there. So we've got the big guns out now. We're gonna try with a 50-ton. The only thing is I've got to try and get it threaded through into there, and there isn't much space, and it's bloody heavy. So I've got the 50-ton sat in there now. It's not ideal because I can't get it any nearer, but I've given it a bit of a jack and it went with a bang, and now it's starting to, I think it's starting to come out. So I've got that pin out, just needed more force to press it out, but you can see it's quite badly worn. So yeah, that's both pins out now, so I have to try and wheel it apart without ending up with it in a big heap on the floor. So I've got it so far apart, I put the pry bar in there and pried it. I can't get it to go anymore by pushing it by myself, because you push one wheel and it tries to swing round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my forklift in, sit it there. I'm not going to pull it apart with a forklift, but I'm going to put a winch from the front onto my forklift, use that as something solid to winch against, and then I can just steadily pull it apart. I don't want to pull it apart and then end up with the jack either not moving and then it all falling off or what have you. So yeah, I'm going to slowly winch it apart. Right, so that is it in half. Just ignore that big puddle of oil. One of them pipes was dangling down as I was pulling it apart, and I couldn't do anything about it other than let it leak out until I could get it fair enough apart so I could pull the pipe out. Yeah, I'll have to clean that up. So yeah, it doesn't look maybe too bad. I don't want to speak too soon until I get these caps off and see what's inside there. Them two definitely need line boring through. I don't know what that top one's like. The only thing that's going to make it more tricky is that bottom hole is smaller than what the top hole is, so I can't run a bar all the way through the whole lot. So yeah, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I'll worry about that when I get to it. So I'll put some stands under the front, make sure that's all secure. back's all right, I think. And then I'll clean all that up, take them caps off and see what's involved inside there. So I've been to get some oil granules, put some granules on the oil, soak it up. So with this, there's like a cap on there that holds everything in. And just to be awkward like the rest of it, 2 bolts have come undone and 2 bolts are not coming undone. So I don't want to round them off, so I'll give them a warm up, I think. Put a bit of heat into them and then hopefully they should come undone. But you can see everything inside there is loose, which doesn't look good for that bit being not worn. So I've actually managed to get these other 2 to come undone without having to warm them up. The front one, I braided that into it because it was starting to round off, and anyway that one come undone. This one I put the Allen key back in it and gave it a few smacks on the top with a hammer, and now it's come undone, so that's all right. Now them ones are short ones, and for some reason this front one is a longer, smaller one. Whether it's supposed to be like that, I don't know. Yeah, so that's the problem. The outer housing is not supposed to be that loose in there. So that's bad. So you see there's like 2 halves of a ball, and they go into them cups. And that's your joint. So I'm just looking at the underside of this top one. There's also a cap on the bottom, same bolts. And obviously the thread must have stripped in the top one, that's why they've put a long one through, tapped it through to the other side. But whatever they've done there is starting to break out. But if I take this cap off as well, it'll make it easier to line bar through, because then it's just one bar all the way through the same size. And this bottom one I think is the same thing. There's a bolt there, another one there, and that one's a bit mashed up. If I can get them out, it'll be the same thing in the bottom. And then same under there, another cap under there. So if I get both of them caps off, then that should be a reasonably straightforward job, line barring them 2 through. So this one's going to be more tricky because that hole is smaller than the top hole, and they're both of them are the same size. So I've done the old weld a nut on top of it trick, and it seems to be coming undone now. I want to be gentle with it so I don't break the nut off, but keep working it backwards and forwards and it should come out. So I've heated the bolt up rather than round the outside because I can't get in the back of there without taking this off, and if I take that off it's going to open up a new can of worms. So last time I heated the bolt up rather than the outside, people in the comments got upset saying, oh, you're heating the wrong area up. I know I am, but I'm just trying to get the heat into the bolt, down the threads, and then the heat sometimes is enough to, to break them loose. So that's why I've heated the bolt up rather than the outside. So I'll wait for that to cool down a little bit, and then I'll try and hammer the Allen bolt, the Allen key back into it, see if it'll come undone. If not, then I'll weld a nut on it, the same as what I did with this one. That's pretty badly worn as well. You can see how bad the lip there is in the top of there, the ridge in the middle. So that's going to need line boring as well. There's no point putting a new one in, otherwise it'll just, the outer will just open up. By the look of the old bit that's broken out of it, that's just been like a single ball joint as that one. And the top one's been like that, one in two halves. So what I need to do now is get the caps off the bottom, which doesn't look very fun job at all, if it's anything like what the top ones are like. But yeah, I need to get them off. It'll just make line boring them so much easier if I can get them off. So I managed to get that plate off the bottom. It was a bloody nightmare to get the bolts undone, and they're all rounded off, so I had to weld nuts onto them as well to get them off. One of them, that one, is like the head of the old bolt, and then someone's drilled it and tapped it. That's what this one is. That's, if you look, the head of the old bolt has been welded onto a bit of threaded bar, and they've made that into a long bolt. So that's a right bodge job. Anyway, that's off, so I can, it's just a straight bar now. So now I'm going to have to try and take the cap off the bottom of there, which is probably going to be even more hard work because I've hardly got any room to work. I've managed to get that cap off the bottom. I had to warm them bolts up and hammer the Allen key into them, and anyway they've come undone, so you can see now how badly worn it is in there. So that's obviously going to need line barring and back out. Well, I'll line bar it, build it back up, and then line bar it back to size again. Top one is pretty bad as well. So this one on the front half has had this extra plate welded on. That's not standard, it looks like that's been added on after, but they're actually not too bad. I don't think I'll need to line bar that one, which is good because that bottom hole is bigger, it's smaller than the top hole, so that'd be a bit of a nightmare. So I'll only have this one to do on the front half. But then these plates are supposed to have a seal in them, and they're pretty chewed up. Yeah, they're not great. See, that one's got a seal in it. So I'm not quite sure what to do with them yet. And then I've got some new bolts to fasten them on. That's the joint that came out of the top. So it's like a ball that's in two halves. And then the outers. It's not, at least that's not been all smashed up and chewed it all to bits. But I've got a new one, I've ordered a new one of them, so there's a new one of them coming. What was in the bottom, that was all that was left of what was in the bottom. Like the ball had been smashed up. So I've got a new one of them to replace that. But then because the ball was broken up, it's chewed all the pin to bits. So there'll be a new pin to make. That's the pin, the top pin. But where I'm not quite sure. I think because of that extra plate that's been welded on the top, this pin is only standard length, so there's been like that much extra plate, so it looks like that has only been running on that bit of the pin because the top's not worn. There's only that, you know, there's only that bit that's worn, when it should have been running on all of that. So I think that's, you know, someone's bodged that up and not done the job properly originally, so I think that's why that's the only reason why I can think that that's worn, and it's not worn up there. And that should be running on all of that. So I'll have to make a new pin for this as well, but I'll have to make a longer one to go through that extra bit of plate, and so there's enough for that to run on. Yeah, because when that pin's sat on there, the shoulder on there doesn't reach all the way to the bottom, so the bottom ball joint hasn't been doing anything because it hasn't been, can't point at it and hold it at the same time, it hasn't been fitting on the right part of the pin, only the top one has. So because someone's added this extra plate on the top of here, they haven't made the pin to suit. So, you know, that's been a problem. It's not turning out to be a straightforward job, which I knew it wouldn't anyway, but the trouble is the customer doesn't realise how much work goes into jobs like this. They think, oh, it's just a new bushes, new pins, and it's back together, but no, it's not. It's a bit of a ball ache. And then also in the front, it's had these bits of plates welded in, whether they're supposed to be shims or what, I'm not sure. The bottoms are the same. So just as a demonstration, that's a new ball joint. That's how slack it is in there. And that's how slack the pin is. So yeah, I think that'll maybe do for part one. So I'm waiting for the new joints to come. I can start line barring it now, but this video is going to be pretty long, so I'll do it in 2 halves. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.